The S-class submarines of the Royal Navy were originally designed and built during the modernization of the submarine force in the early 1930s to meet the need for smaller boats to patrol the restricted waters of the North Sea and the Mediterranean Sea, replacing the British H-class submarines. As part of the major naval construction for the Royal Navy during the Second World War, the S-class became the largest single group of submarines ever built for the Royal Navy. A total of 62 was constructed over a period of 15 years, with 50 of the improved S-class being launched between 1940 and 1945. Service. The submarines operated in the waters around the United Kingdom and in the Mediterranean, and later in the Far East after being fitted with extra tankage. After the war, S-class boats continued to serve in the Royal Navy until the 1960s. The last operational boat in the Royal Navy was Sea Devil, launched in 1945 and scrapped in February 1966. Springer was in Azraeli service as INS Tannen and was decommissioned in 1972. Several S-class submarines were sold on a lent to other navies: Netherlands 1, Portugal 3, France 4, Israel 2, landed commandos and fought with an Egyptian ship in the Six-Day War. A modified version was ordered by the Turkish Navy in 1939 as the Orak Reis class. Service losses. Of the 12 S-class boats that were in service in 1939, only 3 survived to see the end of World War II, a loss rate that inspired the song 12 Little S-Boats, based on a nursery rhyme originally written by Septimus Winner in 1868. 12 little S-boats go to it like Bevan. Starfish goes a bit too far. Then there were 11 watchful S-boats doing fine, and then Seahorse fails to answer, so there are 10 stocky S-boats in a ragged line. Sterler drops and stops out, leaving us 9 plucky S-boats, all pursuing fate. Shark is overtaken, now we are 8 sturdy S-boats, men from Hanson Devon. Salmon now is overdue, and so the number's 7 gallant S-boats, trying all the tricks. Spearfish tries a newer one. Down we come to 6 tireless S-boats fighting to survive. No reply from Swordfish, so we tally 5 scrubby S-boats, patrolling close inshore. Snapper takes a shortcut, now we're 4 fearless S-boats, too far out to sea. Sunfish bombed and scrap heaped, we are only 3 threadbare S-boats patrolling o'er the blue. 2 icebound S-boats. 1 lonely S-boat. The survivors, left blank in the fatalistic rhyme, were HMS Sea Lion, HMS Sea Wolf, and HMS Sturgeon. General characteristics. First group. The first group of S-class submarines consisted of 4 boats. They were smaller and slower than later classes, and carried less armament, but could be crewed by fewer men. All 4 were built at Chatham Dockyard between 1930 and 1932. During the war, they operated in home waters, particularly the English Channel, and off the Scandinavian coast. The later second and third groups of S-class submarines would have the fuel capacity expanded to allow them to operate further and overcome this limitation. The mortality rate of these early boats was particularly high. Only 1 HMS Sturgeon survived to the end of the war. Ships. 2 ordered under the 1929 construction program: HMS Swordfish, HMS Sturgeon. 2 ordered under the 1930 construction program: HMS Seahorse, HMS Starfish. Second group. The second group of S-class submarines consisted of 8 boats. They were larger than the preceding first group and required more men to crew, but carried a similar armament. Construction was divided between Chatham Dockyard and the yards of Scots, of Greenock and Camel-Led&Co. Limited, of Birkenhead. All the ships were built between 1934 and 1937. During the war, they, like the submarines of the first group, mostly operated in home waters, ranging as far afield as the Bay of Biscay and the Scandinavian coast. One HMS Sunfish was assigned to the Soviet Navy and was sunk by friendly aircraft on the transfer route from Dundee to Murmansk. A large percentage of these submarines were also lost during the war. Only 2 HMS Sea Lion and HMS Sea Wolf survived to the end of the war. Ships, 2 ordered under the 1931 construction program: HMS Sea Lion, HMS Shark; 2 ordered under the 1932 construction program: HMS Snapper, HMS Salmon; 1 ordered under the 1933 construction program: HMS Sea Wolf; 2 ordered under the 1934 construction program: HMS Spearfish, HMS Sunfish; 1 ordered under the 1935 construction program: HMS Sterlet. Third group. The third and by far the most numerous group of S-class submarines consisted of 50 boats. They were the largest and most heavily armed of the S-class and required more men to crew. They were 1 knot faster on the surface, but 2 knots slower when submerged. Most of the group were built at the yards of either Scots, of Greenock, or Camel-Led&Co. Limited, of Birkenhead, with a handful being built at Chatham, or by Vickers Armstrongs Limited, of Barrow-in-Furness. Construction was carried out throughout the war, particularly between 1941 and 1945. Equipped with a greater fuel capacity than the predecessors, they operated much further afield, in the Mediterranean and in the Pacific Far East. There were 2 distinct subgroups. The first were boats of 842 tons, comprising those ordered under the 1939 War Emergency, 1940 and 1941 programs, plus the sturdy and Stygian of the 1942 program. These carried an external stern torpedo tube in addition to the 6 bow tubes. The second subgroup were boats of 814 tons, comprising the Sea Devil and Scotsman of the 1941 program, plus those ordered under the 1942 and 1943 programs. These carried no external torpedo tube, but had a thicker welded pressure hull, providing for an operational depth limit of 350 feet, compared with the 300 feet limit in the first subgroup. Losses continued to be high. 9 ships, P222, Saracen, Sahib, Sickle, Simoom, Splendid, Stonehenge, Stratagem and Surtees were lost during the war, and Shakespeare and Strongbow were so badly damaged that they were written off and scrapped. Many surviving ships remained in service after the war. Sportsman, by now transferred to the French Navy, was lost off Toulon in 1951, and Sidon was sunk after a torpedo malfunction in 1955. Ships. 5 ships were ordered under the 1939 War Emergency Program: HMS Safari, HMS Sahib, HMS Saracen, HMS Satyr, HMS Scepter. 20 ships were ordered under the 1940 program. These differed from the initial 5 by having an external stern torpedo tube fitted, also a 20 mm Lycon-AA gun and air warning RDF installed. HMS Sea Dog, HMS Sybil, HMS Sea Rover, HMS Seraph, HMS Shakespeare, HMS P222, which was lost before a name could be allotted to her, HMS Sea Nym, HMS Sickle, HMS Simoom, HMS Cedar, HMS Spiteful, HMS Splendid, HMS Sportsman. The final 7 further ships ordered under the 1940 program, all from Vickers Armstrongs, were cancelled during 1943. 15 ships were ordered under the 1941 program. HMS Stoic, HMS Stonehenge, HMS Storm, HMS Stratagem, HMS Strongbow, HMS Spark, HMS Scythian, HMS Stubborn, HMS Surf, HMS Cert-Is, HMS Shalimar, HMS Scotsman, HMS Sea Devil, HMS Spirit, HMS Statesman. 13 ships were ordered under the 1942 program. HMS Sturdy, HMS Stygian, HMS Subtle, HMS Supreme, HMS Sea Scout, HMS Selene, HMS Seneschal, HMS Sentinel, HMS Sidon, HMS Sleuth, HMS Solent, HMS Spearhead, HMS Springer sold to Israel, recommissioned August 1959 as the Instan and participated in the Six-Day War. 8 ships were ordered under the 1943 program, but only 4 were completed. The other 4 submarines was cancelled after the war ended in 1945, and they became surplus to peacetime requirements. HMS Saga, HMS Scorcher, HMS Per, HMS Sanguine sold to Israel, recommissioned August 1959 as the Inns Rafiv. HMS Sea Robin cancelled, HMS Brightly cancelled, HMS Surface cancelled, HMS Surge cancelled.